Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
You know, this is almost hard to accept and believe, but all of us have dealt with some kind of trauma in our lives. It's true, all different types. I know she believes it. She helps people with this all the time as a consultant, a coach, a trauma specialist, an author. And we're going to go much deeper into the word trauma today and how she can help you heal from those different traumas and what actually triggers them from time to time. Michelle Dickey is with us on the program. Hi, Michelle. How are you doing?
Hi, Steve. I'm doing well. How about you?
Doing well. Doing well. Great to have you here. And we talked a second before we jumped on here, but I'm so glad that we're on the same page in terms of the trauma thing because we've all dealt with it. It might not necessarily mean it's one individual that intentionally did something to you. You could have internalized trauma when you were 7 years old. You heard something, then you carried it with you. Or it could be somebody that did something to you or did something to this up here, and you're still dealing with it. You're still carrying it. You don't know how to get rid of it. Comes up every once in a while when you encounter a trigger. Could be a song, could be a phrase, could be, you never know what it's going to be. I have to be honest with you. I only learned about triggers because I was connected to somebody about a year ago. And she went through a lot of traumas in her life. And I didn't know the depth of them until she would change. And it was things that would come up that would trigger her. And that's where I learned the word trigger and how that all works and how it's connected to traumas. Very interesting and impactful how it changes your life when you've gone through something and these things, these triggers come up. We're going to talk about the language that people use to abuse in a moment. But when we're talking about triggers, Michelle, when you are triggered by something, how do you suggest people deal with that?
Well, the first step in overcoming these triggers, whatever it is, only the survivor knows for themselves, because there's no one-size-fits-all solution to healing, okay, at all from narcissistic abuse and trauma. There's no one-size-fits-all. So based on their particular circumstance, okay, whatever it is, only they will know, right? And so it's to identify that trigger. That's always step number one, is identifying it and then assessing where it come from. Because the biggest lesson we all learn is that these triggers are all external. They're coming from somewhere else. And so we got tricked, many of us, into, like you said, internalizing a lot of the stuff like the abuse that was getting dished out. You know, we got tricked into internalizing it. And so we tricked our own brain into thinking that it belonged to us when it doesn't. So we realized that, identify the trigger, and then assess where it's coming from. Because once you get a handle on where it's coming from, and you're able to process it and know that it's not coming from within you. And the common example that I share a lot is, because it's spiritual energy, okay? So it's real. And we understand this more the further along we get in the healing journey. And then once we make it, what I call to the other side of the rainbow, when you're fully healed, you got that balance back between the physical and the spiritual. And once we get there, then we realize when we go out somewhere, we do that daily self-check-in, okay? First thing in the morning, it's like for myself, first thing in the morning, for many of us, we thank God for another day, armor up, and then we do a daily self-check-in. Check in with God. Say, all right, where are we at? Where are we? How are we feeling? How are we as far as our regulation? Are we good? Are we good? Okay, cool. All right, so we know what we've got to do for the day, and we maintain that. Once we got that and we maintain it as we go out and about our day, and then all of a sudden we start to feel somebody else's anxiety, and then we get better at, oh, okay, that's not, because we already checked in with ourselves, so we knew we weren't experiencing that. But before we understood about the spiritual energy and that it coming from somewhere else, after we're self-aware of ourselves, then we're able to become aware of, okay, that's coming from there and there and there, and it's not us, so we don't internalize it anymore. you see.
Mhm.
And then that's all part of how we maintain our self-regulation and not let it get under our skin, so to speak. And so, because that's what we all got duped into doing before we understood what was going on. And that, oh, it's coming from like all the insecurities and all of that from the abusers. They tricked us into thinking that it belonged to us when it belongs to them, not us. Because, see, they're the one, all of us, we're responsible for getting a handle on ourselves. Okay, we're responsible for learning how to control ourselves. That's all we can control. How we respond, how we react, and things like that. During the healing process, overcoming those triggers, that's a huge step right there as to really letting it sink in that it isn't coming from within us and that it's somewhere else. Okay, all right. And it takes a while. I tell people, don't rush the process. We got to allow ourselves the time and the space to process all of that and to heal, because many of us got tricked into thinking that we will fully heal from an abusive situation when we really weren't. And so we ended up in another one, and then another one, and another one, as I detail out in my book, Real Events of Narcissistic Abuse. And that audiobook is available for this on the website, and that is cdhrwdrmd.org. Everybody, for those who like the sound of my voice, they would like to have me read my story to them. It's one price, download on the 3 devices, every day, all day, available right there. So we got that put together for everybody. And then, of course, you got your paperback, your ebook version, things like that on Amazon as well. So, multiple different ways people can learn more about how this ministry and the work came into fruition. Okay, they're not alone out there. For those who've gotten into more than one, hello, you're not alone. You're not alone. We had to learn the lessons,
So many questions, Michelle. So many. And I love what you're saying in terms of the check-in. It's like, go home. Home is here. Home is in the heart. Check in with yourself when those things pop up. And I love that you said that, because nobody knows you better than you know you. So it's time to check in. Are we okay? Yeah, we're okay. Can we always fully recover from traumas?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. There's many of us out here who are walking testimony to that, where we are still going to encounter these narcissistic abusers. It's just, that's that radical acceptance phase that we all go through, that, you know what, they're here. And so the only way to deal with it by not dealing with them, okay, is by getting a handle of ourselves, over ourselves. Say, you know what, we're in control of ourselves, and that's it. We definitely can't control them. They're going to do what they're going to do. And I'll share with everybody that when we have limited contact for whatever reason, that just simply means we cut them off at the soul level. In other words, we are no longer giving them access to our empathy, because that's what they want. They want us to feel sorry for them. They want us to feel sad for them. When, as a grown adult, they should know better than to be throwing temper tantrums when they don't get their way. And so we basically take on the parental role, really, and to deal with it by not dealing with it. In other words, not reacting anymore, not responding when, if no response is needed, then we don't give one.
I just had this situation extremely recently where business connected with someone, and I detected we were going down that road in terms of the way they were acting and speaking. And right at that moment, I said, gotta go. Good seeing you. And I took off.
There you go.
And that was it. Shut it down. I don't want to hear it, because I put the pieces together and see always the same MO. It's always the same comment. It's almost like boilerplate. And everybody has their own. I'm going to call it a abuser. Not that this is an abusive situation, but it was kind of a narcissistic kind of twist there. I was like, oh, all right, I'm moving on. Don't need to talk about that right now. Why don't we go to the language? Things that narcissist abusers say that they want us to take in a certain way. How do they verbalize things, and what should we watch out for?
Word salad.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's what it sounds like you were catching on to, was maybe a little bit of a word salad thing going on. And that usually comes in form of like two incoherent sentences put together that don't make sense, or mumbling under their breath. They mumble and it's incoherent. Like, I have had several, like in a toxic workplace, where we have one overt, I mean, very overt bully. I mean, not trying to hide it at all. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
He did not, he liked being that way. And he had a collapse one evening, and he did that mumbling incoherently under his breath. And I remember a couple of the fellow workers, they looked at me and they were like, "What was that?" And I was like, "Don't, no response. Let him get that out." So
Yeah, yeah.
that,
And you know what? Michelle, I just got a flash in my head. Usually when they go into the mumble, they don't look at you. You could be having the conversation, blah, 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 blah.
exactly.
Right?
Yep. They'll oftentimes, yep, they're not going to look, they will not be able to look you in the eye when they're doing it. And they'll look away or they'll look down.
Yeah, yeah. It's almost as if they don't want to get caught BSing you. So they're not going to look you in the eye. Yeah, interesting. Wow.
Yeah, it's very, very common. Very common. And many case studies that I've had, they have all done it in some fashion or another. And it's just one of the very things that we all come to start realizing, as survivors end up on Quora because they're Googling someone's behaviors, so that's where this ministry and the work started, for anyone who didn't know.
Oh, wow.
Is over there on Quora, a little Q&A site, that gets referred to as the nerdy kid in the back of the room with the book.
And you know what? Most times you don't actually go to the site. You find it by chance when you Google. Right?
Exactly.
Because I forget about it. I forget. It's off my radar. Reddit, sometimes I'll go there just to play around a little bit, but Quora, I find that I stumble upon it. And then when you do, it's like, oh, look at that. That's interesting. Look at that. That's interesting. So that's where it began for the ministry.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Yeah, that the foundation several years ago, and then we just kind of branched out. So real quick, the easiest way for everybody to find all the social platforms where the ministry and the work is located we are across several platforms, and it's on the My Social page of the website. They can see that with the navigation drop-down menu, and they'll see the link My Social. Everything's right there. That's just the easiest way, because we're on Pinterest, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Out there. We're out there, and the YouTube channel. Highly encourage people to take a look at that, because we've got something for everybody at the different stages of the healing. So, like, for example, breaking the trauma bond. That is, that's part of our brand, of helping the survivors break that trauma bond. Because that word salad, believe it or not, is part of the trauma bonding process as well. It's just a variation of how they do it. And, with the love bomb and then the devalue, when you think about a backhanded compliment, that kind of is very similar to word salad. Like, oh, okay, so I know this isn't your specialty. You've adapted well, even though I know this isn't your specialty. I'm like sitting here going, stop, push pull with that. And I'm like, that was an unnecessary statement. It's like you could say, well, you've adapted well to this particular whatever profession, and leave it at that. But no, a narcissistic abuser cannot leave it at that. It's like they dish out that blessing and then a curse in the same sense. Oh, we're told that ought not so to be.
Yeah.
Okay, but they do that.
And they like their butts. They're like their butts. So they say something, but so it's like whatever you said in the beginning, let's say the positive part of the point is now negated by the but that's connected to the negative part. So it's almost as if the first part didn't exist. We have a question. We're going to get to that in just a second. But I want to go back to what you said before. When we keep running into or attracting these people who abuse, and the cycle just continues. I found another one. How did that happen? Why do you think that happens?
Well, like we talked about earlier, it's because we didn't allow ourselves the time and space to do the necessary healing.
Gotcha,
Uh,
gotcha.
okay,
And
that's
but
a big part,
a big, I
and
totally agree. And once you haven't healed, why are you attracting it? Are they coming to you? Are you seeking them out? How does that work? I have a theory, but I want to hear yours.
okay. Well, it's really different for everyone. But I would think the similar thing for all of us, you're looking for love.
Hmm.
I mean, that's the crust of it, right? We were all looking for love from external places. And so we ended up looking in all the wrong places.
That was a song that actually came out in the early 80s called Looking for Love in All the Wrong Places. I'm not even kidding.
Oh,
It's
oh,
it's a country song. It was a country song that went pop like top five. Not Eddie Rabbit. I'm trying to think, but it was Looking for Love in All the Wrong Places. It'll come to me. Um,
okay.
I
Wow.
in my journey, I've learned or realized or accepted the fact that we're all energy.
Hmm.
And if you haven't healed, you project a certain type of energy. And it's almost as if it's a fishing pole, a line, and a hook that you're putting it out there and you're pulling that other energy in that shouldn't be coming to you, but you haven't healed yourself. And that's why you're pulling those types of fish into the boat.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, we're on.
Because we're on the same page because what we come to learn, you know, to do the healing is that
Right.
the love that we're seeking is already inside us. It's already in there. Because one thing many survivors come to learn is that when that abuser was mirroring us back to us, we were falling in love with ourselves. So we had it in us all along. So we learned to look at the silver lining in it.
Hmm.
So as they were mirroring us back to us, that just lets us know how much love we really have inside. And it's been there all along. And then we stop looking for it out there in the external because we have it from within. And once
Oh,
that's another tip to know when you're fully healed is when you can do that. Doing that inner work and remembering on a daily basis that you've got all the love from within that you need. We don't need to seek it out there in the
let's go
external.
there. Let's go there for a second. How do you truly know you've healed? Is it you get to the point, Michelle, where you just say, I'm good. And whatever shows up. Or are you, if you're one of those people who's just like, I need that. I need to find somebody. I need that. I need validation of love. Is that a sign that you've obviously not healed?
Oh yeah, I mean, we're real big on teaching how to break that dependency on external validation because that really is the huge milestone on the healing journey. Because once we can do that, it gets a little easier going forward. That's one of the biggest things we all had to learn to
Wow.
overcome was to break that dependency on external validation because I've got a shirt that God is the only validation we need. It's in here. And so it's like, okay. And then we start learning, we start learning more about ourselves that way too. During the healing process, we start realizing that, you know what? There's nothing wrong with us. Yeah, it's just that we didn't know who we were yet. We didn't know about all of that abuse and things at the time. So we were learning a lesson. And
Do
so
you
we learned.
feel do you feel that we do what we do because it's potentially something that happened in our childhood and we have these beliefs that maybe we're not good enough or we can't be loved or whatever it is, and we've held that along with us all those years, and then that's why we keep rinse and repeating the wrong relationships.
I know that's another part of it. Absolutely. Yes,
Okay.
many survivors come to realize that as well. That yeah, we're just carrying, those beliefs about themselves that we come to learn later on aren't true.
Yeah.
That we can do anything we set our minds to. Absolutely. Willing to
Ah,
learn new things and stuff. But how to know when we're fully healed really is like what you said. You get to that point where you're like, I'm good. I'm good. Whatever, we will deal with it as it comes our way. And we're able to maintain that self-regulation. Nothing, and I mean nothing out there can get under our skin anymore. Because like many of us, I've recently had one that tried to guilt trip again. As soon as that, I know how you feel about, but I cut them off and I walk away.
Watch the butt. It's so true. And I also believe, we talk about the energy thing. If you go on a dating app, dating site, you're putting energy out there. Energy knows no time, no space, and you're still going to grab those kinds of people because they're picking up on your energy. That's it. That's my belief. We have Kelly checks in from Winside, Michigan. She says, love your talk today. When dealing with a narcissist, I've often heard that you should always present only the facts to shut them down. What are your
Exactly.
thoughts? Yeah.
Yep. That's it. Stay true to you. You know your facts. Yeah, you've done the research. You saw what you saw, and you heard what you heard.
Yep.
Okay? Yep. And
or read what you read. If somebody sent a text, because you can't dispute it. It's right here. This doesn't lie. It's right here.
Right. Especially through text message and emails and stuff. Oh yeah. Yeah. A lot of times because when the narcissistic abuser, we learn to stop trying to confront them because they're only going to deny it and deflect it anyway. And so they often try to tell, like, you said this, and the abuser will deny, but yet you come back with, I got it right here.
And what can they say? They can backpedal. They can try and, come up with a reason. But you said it. It's right there. It's what, as much as texting isn't so great because you can't get the full tone from the text, it is in a narcissistic situation because you have the proof.
Well, absolutely. But I will go ahead and enlighten you on something with that. Being able to detect the tone in a text, eventually we can. Especially if we know the temperament of the person who's doing the texting. So, for example, like I had I call him the ex-psychopath roommate, okay, because he was a major case study. Yeah, you put a check next to every box on that psychopath checklist. Oh my goodness, boom, to a T. Okay. His tone was always very low and depressed, obviously low vibing. And so what he did was he tried to hoover he put spyware on an old Android I had while I was there. So this is how he got that information from my contact list. And so he kept up with who I was in communication with the most frequent. And so I had an acquaintance, in another state that I would chat with. And I knew his temperament. He wasn't depressed and low vibing. Okay. So when the ex-psycho, because he had a restraining order out on him, and I blocked him, deleted him everywhere that I possibly could, what he did is he spoofed my acquaintance's number and was trying to pretend to be my acquaintance. But eventually I caught on to the tone and I was like, okay, this is not so-and-so. That's not how he usually talks. The phraseology and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
Very, very low vibing and very depressed like. And it's like my intuition said, you're not talking to so-and-so. That's the narc that you're talking to. And I was like, oh, man, okay.
What is wrong with people? And I'm like, we're out of time here, but and also, what an invasion, a violation of you for somebody to do that. Oh, yeah.
That's what they do because they want to isolate you. They want you to not have any friends. They want you to be all alone. They want you to go back to them and be dependent on them.
Right. Put you in a box. Yeah.
Exactly.
What's your website? And if somebody feels this is resonating with them in terms of their situation, has dealt with abuse, has trauma and trying to figure it out, how do they reach you and where does it start?
Okay, the website is again cdhrwdrmd.org, and they can always reach out at 704-245-4340. And I also take text messages on that from the business number as well. So if they're more comfortable, texting and we could set up a time to chat, that's fine too. But they can see the available session times and days available right on the website, and then check out some other stuff that we got. And the YouTube channel, again, the title is Narcissism and Cognitive Dissonance. And they're two fundamental components in the spiritual battle for the mind. All right. So there you go. And I want to just say sending love and light to all fellow warriors. Thank you for listening, watching, and for your support. Till next time, show some gratitude to the Heavenly Father. You keep being you. In Jesus' name, amen.
You're amazing. And I appreciate you for what you do. And you've gone through it. You help people with it. And I look forward next time we get a chance to talk, Michelle.
Likewise. Thank you.
I'm going to have salad for lunch, but it's not going to be a word salad. I can guarantee that. All right. We'll talk soon.
All right.
Thanks a lot. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.